Good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 Live Talk, Women's Roundtable, where we discuss issues affecting women. We are coming to you live from the Voice of America in Washington this Thursday, January the 19th, 2023. I am your host, Sithandegile Mhlanga. Tonight, we are discussing incidents of political violence and what the opposition party Citizens Coalition for Change calls arbitrary arrests of its members ahead of the national harmonized elections expected this year. In further preparations for the elections, the preliminary delimitation report, whose recommendations were adopted by both Parliament and Senate, was today handed over to President Mnangagwa by Speaker of Parliament Jacob Mudenda. Mr. Mnangagwa told the media today that he will hand over the report to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission tomorrow. 26 CCC activists, including a minor and 2 lawmakers accused of participating in a gathering with intent to promote public violence in Bocherero last Saturday, were at the Magistrates Court in Harare today. Lawyer Wilbert Mandinde explains what happened at the court.
Nasi apa nyaya yava Amos Chibaya nevamwe vava 25 vanasanganisa honorable Machingauta tapinda mudare dare ratanga nekubvisa mwana musikana mudiki ane makore 18 anga aripo vakati ngaachimboenda kuchikoro apiwa zuva rake anodzoka musi wa3 kukadzi mudare uye dare rati zvakare vasungwa vane kodzero yokupiwa chikafu uye vane kodzero yokurapwa asi zvichienderana nemutemo wekujeri wekuti zvinofambiswa sei kuti vapiwe. Masikati ano tatanga zvakare kuenderera mberi nekunzwa chikumbiro chekuti vasungwa vese vatongwe vachibva kumba. Dare ranga rakateerera investigating officer mupurisa ari kuita nyaya uyo anga achipa uchapupu hwekuti sei vasungwa vasapiwe vatenderwe kutongwa vachibva kumba. Asi pari zvino tapedza tatiri kuita yatinoti cross examination kumubvunzota kuti zvichafamba sei, tinoenderera mberi mangwana patiri kufungira kuti tichapeta nyaya tozonzwa kuti dare rinoti izvo tozodzoka rini kuruli.
Takatarisa nyaya yekuparwa kunonzi kwakaitwa mhosva iyi, mupurisa ari kuti kudii panyaya?
Vamupurisa vari kubata kuno nekokoko. Chinhu chataburisa mudare ndechekuti ivo vakanga vasiko kubudiriro, vari kutaura zvavakaudzwa, asi mhosva chaiyo haichachanyobuda kuti ndeipi, nekuti vamhike neni taedza kuburisa pachena kuti mutemo uyu, musangano uyu wanga uri pamutemo.
Lapho-ke lizwe igqwetha elimela amalunga ebandla le-Citizens Coalition for Change amiswe phambi komthethwandaba kaManji eHarare kucala aletheswayo elokuhlangana engelamvumo. Belokhu bengakakhululwa ngemali yesibambiso eye-bail. Phakathi kwabo kulontombazana osakhulayo lamalunga edale lephalamende amabili. Kulabo-ke abasanda ukusixhuma lamhlanje sicubungula ukuphathelane lodlakela kwezombusazwe lokubotshwa kwamalunga ebandla le-CCC phambikilini kokhetho olukhangelelwe ukuwona lo umnyaka. Let's hear what various female political leaders and women's organizations have to say about the prevailing political atmosphere in the country ahead of the elections. The chairperson of the National Women's Assembly in the Citizens Coalition for Change, Barbara Tanyanyiwa, says her party condemns the politically motivated acts of violence in the country.
As CCC women, we are very much worried about the violence that is going on around the country, which is being perpetrated by ZANU-PF, of course. And we are so much worried that even women are being victims and they are being sexually abused by the police, an act that we condemn in its strongest terms.
Tanyanyiwa's sentiments are echoed by Linda Masarira, leader of opposition party Labour Economists and African Democrats.
As the president of Labour Economists and African Democrats, I am deeply concerned and deeply worried about the escalating cases of political violence, armed robberies in our country, and how that is affecting women and families in our country. Sadly, all political opponents choose violence at a time they're supposed to be choosing peace and dialogue for conflict resolution. Going forward, we are people that are supposed to nurture a culture of unity of purpose, unity in our diversity.
Citizens Coalition for Change Bulawayo legislator Jasmine Toffa, who says she was attacked by suspected ZANU-PF activists in October last year with some of her party members during the violence that broke out in the run-up to the by-elections in Insiza, Matabeleland South, tells Studio 7 LiveTalk that her injuries have not completely healed as a disc that was installed in her fractured hand will be removed sometime this year. However, ZANU-PF Director for Information and Publicity, Tafatso Mogwadi, insists that his party does not engage in acts of violence and says it is the duty of the police to arrest any perpetrators of violence and bring them to justice. Women Affairs Minister Thembi Sonyoni, who is also in Kaino, the legislator and member of the ruling ZANU-PF, tells Studio 7 LiveTalk violence has no place in Zimbabwe.
We don't want anyone who goes into power through beating other people to submission. It is wrong, it is undemocratic, it is unacceptable. So that issue comes up again and again, and we really want to say no to violence. This year, as we go towards the elections, we are saying, women, let us unite, report any violence that you experience. And I wish all women that would like to engage in politics this year a very, very good luck and good opportunity.
Meanwhile, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights recently ruled that Zimbabwe should respect and protect the right to peaceful protests and should investigate, prosecute, and punish all state actors responsible for violations. Jenny Williams of activist group Women of Zimbabwe Arise, which took the case to the Commission and whose members have faced arrests over the years during demonstrations, says she hopes government will honor the ruling this year so that peace prevails.
The question is a valid question. Do we think the Zimbabwe government is going to comply with the need for redress, with the need for investigation of all police officers who overreached? And that remains lobby and advocacy work that we have to do.
Various listeners and viewers who spoke to Studio 7 LiveTalk say signs that the elections expected to be held this year will not be free and fair are already apparent, and they hope the situation will improve so that results are not disputed as usual. Lapho-ke sizwe abakhokheli bamabandla ehlukeneyo kwezombusazwe ababalisa LCCC, ZANU-PF, lead kanye lenhlanganiso yewoza besipha imbono yabo ngodlakela olubikwa lukhona elizweni. Sizwile njalo lo mphathintambo ogatsha lukahulumende olubona ngeze phathelane labesifazana isola udlakela unkosikazi Thembi Sonyoni njalo ikhuthaza abesifazana ukuthi bebikele amapholisa bengahlukuluzwa. Now, to discuss the issues raised in depth, we are joined by our guests, Evangelista Itarai Shetonga, who is a ZANU-PF activist, and Ellen Shirietenga, Elections Officer, Deputy Elections Officer in the Citizens Coalition for Change. Welcome to the show.
Good evening. How are you? Good evening, my listeners.
Yes, may you introduce yourself and give us your name, your title, and where you are, and greet the listeners and viewers.
Okay, my name is Ellen Shirietenga, and I am the Citizens Coalition for Change. Currently, I am the deputy responsible for elections in our party. Thank you.
Yes, what can you say about the issue at hand, the topic we are discussing today? We saw the CCC members appearing in court. What's your sentiments on that, including the women who have been arrested?
Okay, I think unfortunately we are, every time when we approach an election, we expect people to be excited and, because it is our constitutional and democratic right And unfortunately for us as a nation, that is time for tribulation for most people. You know, I spent my entire day in court today and even yesterday following up on our colleague that has been arrested. You know, you could tell the agony, the pain that those people are suffering, but beyond that pain, there is some determination to say, you know what, already we are dying. So that's the kind of attitude which is there. But unfortunately, you know, if you get to look at the circumstances at which those people were arrested, you know, they were at a private meeting, at a private residence, and the police counted them. And even when the investigating officer was being asked today with regard to the circumstances that led to the arrest of those people, he was not really clear, and this is one person who cannot even appreciate and comprehend the law that he used to actually arrest those people. So you can tell that there was an ulterior motive, that is unfair incorporation of people, and what is threatening about it all...
No, can you... That picture is not Ellen. That's Evangelist.
No.
Yeah. Oh, there we just lost our caller. Vesile ecingweni vesilo nkosikazi Ellen Shiriete ngake yena obechasisa ngokuthi kuhambe njani emthethwandaba lamhla lapho esibone kumiswa amalunga ebandla le-CCC phambi kukaMantshi, njalo ubekhonana ngokuthi kulontombazana osakhulayo oleminyaka engu-17 omelethe ngabe usesikolo ongazwisisi lokuthi kuhamba njani. Yes, while we wait for our callers, for our guests, we can even take our callers now. Kodwa singaqhubekeli-ke phambili sikhumbule-ke ukuthi labo abasanda ukusixhuma sicubungula okuphathelane-ke lodlakela elizweni. Sibona ukuthi phela sokulungiselelwa ukhetho ngomnyaka ozayo. Siyabona njalo ukuthi ngakhona umnyaka ozayo kuwona lo umnyaka, kodwa-ke ilanga lakhona alikamenyezelwa. Njalo sibonile ukuthi ugwalo lokwabiwa kwezabelo olwe-delimitation report luyaqoqwa-ke lamhlanje luqhutshelwe umongameli Emmerson Mnangagwa ngisikhulumeli sedale lephalamende umnumzana Jacob Mdenda. Sibonile-ke izolo amalunga edale lephalamende evumelana ngokuthi liganjelwe njani lolu gwalo, ukuthi lixaxelwe njani ukwenzela ukuthi lisebenze kuhle. Njalo sezwe ukuthi amanye amalunga edale lephalamende abalisa eleZANU-PF labe-MDCT bebesithi ngcono kuqale kumiswe ukhetho ukwenzela ukuthi ugwalo lolu ke luqale luhluzisiswe, kodwa bona bathi hayi kulutshwana-ke sithi okumele kulungiswe. Ngakho-ke ukhetho luzaqhubeka njengalokho kufanele ukuthi kwenziwe. So yikho-ke abaningi abakumeleleyo ukuthi kukhulunywe ilanga-ke lokhetho ukuthi kuhamba njani lokuthi luzaqhutshwa ngesikhathi esinganani. Yes, to those who are just joining us, we are discussing the issues affecting women here, looking at incidents of violence and arrests, which the Citizens Coalitions for Change and some Zimbabwean lawyers for human rights are calling unjust ahead of the elections expected to be held this year. And today we also saw that the preliminary delimitation report, whose recommendations were adopted by both Parliament and Senate, has been handed over to President Mnangagwa. And he will have to look at the report and hand it over to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission tomorrow. That's what he told journalists in Harare today. And we saw that among these 26 CCC activists who were arrested last Saturday in Putiriro when they were holding a meeting, who include a minor and 2 lawmakers, they appeared in court today, and the lawyer Wilbert Mandinde has explained what happened and that they could not get the bail which they were so much looking forward to. Yikho ke esikuxoxayo namhlanje kodwa siyabona ukuthi ke abahlonitshwa ade silabo uncingo labo luqhamukile kodwa ke hayi sizaba melela ukuthi beze bebuye ke sixoxisane. Right, let's take a brief break and we'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depend on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Yebo ke sizwa ukuthi sesilo mlaleli wethu wokuqala lapha ositshayele ucingo. Siyakwamukela mlaleli wethu.
Ngiyabonga sithandekile njani?
Hayi ngiyaphila ngibane ngikhuluma laye lapha kuhlelo.
Ukhuluma noJason Maphosa.
Ungaphi kwelizwe? Ungaphi komhlaba?
NgiseDurban.
Yebo ke kunjani ke khona ngapho eDurban?
Hayi sisaphila sithandekile siyezwa kunezi.
Ungasitshela ukuthi uthini ke ngokwenzakala ekhaya. Siyabona abantu babhalisela ukuvota bakhangelela ukhetho kodwa amabandla aphikisayo lokho ekhonona ngokuthi kulodlakela. Ubona kusenzakalani njalo la uzahamba yini ukuyavota?
Angicabanga ukuthi ngizophumelela ukuyavota. Kodwa ke imphumela ke ngicabanga ukuthi ngeke ibe mihle. Ngoba sesibonile udlakelo olukhona kanti ke i-level i-ground ayikho level ukuthi ama-political actors adlale kuyona.
Yebo ke ungaqhubeka.
Okungacaca ukuthi imphumela ngeke ibe mihle. Ngeke ibe mihle ngoba iZANU-PF iyamobilize futhi kakhulu these days. Abantu abangamalungu eZANU-PF they are active kakhulu. They are trying by all means. Bonile kobulawa bekhuthaza ukuthi abantu abaregister abathola izithupha abavote. So iZANU-PF futhi iqala into yabo. Angiboni ukuthi kukhona esingakulindela okuhle. Ngoba even masingabheka i-opposition isiqalile ukukhala like they feel ukuthi no into azihambi kahle and everyone can conclude ukuthi amavoti lawo azayo ngeke abe fair, ngeke kube nokuthula kulolu khetho oluzayo. So umbono wami uthi kuzoba nzima if ukuthi iZANU-PF iphume emandleni. Amabandla aphikisayo kumele azame ngendlela zonke ukuthi amelane leZANU-PF okuyinto engekho lula leyo.
Yebo ke kambe kuyini eleZimbabwe elingakufunda singathi thina ikakhulu kuyini elingakufunda sesikhangela ke kuyini eleZimbabwe lingakufunda ke kwele South Africa khona ngapho bona ingani ukhetho luqhutshwa kuhle yini?
eSouth Africa ukhetho luqhutshwa kuhle, abantu bavota based on ama policies, bavota based on ukubheka ukuthi no in future kunezinto ezingenzakala kanti ke kithi sivota kakhulu based on ukudla lendlala. So if ukuthi masingafunda ikakhulu njengabantu abasha baseZimbabwe ukuthi no, it is not about ukudla, it is not about into ezincane, but it is about health, it is about economy yelizwe. Okuyinto kakhulu thina eZimbabwe sisasalela kakhulu kuyemuva ngoba iZANU-PF into ezithembisa abantu azikho izinto ezithanjebu esingathi hayi votelani iZANU-PF izolenzela khona, akukho kubambekayo ekuthembisa abantu.
Yebo ke hayi siyabonga kodwa nxa ukhuluma labanye khona ngapho abeZimbabwe bathini, bathi bazabuya yini ekhaya, bathi bazahamba yini ukuyavota ekhaya?
abaningi bayasho ukuthi bazohamba ukuyavota but ithemba lincane i-outcome like ungezwa umuntu olwa naye eseqala ukuthi no ngeke kube fair ngeke ngikwazi ukulwa kahle ngoba kunalokho nalokho so thina as ama-supporters sometimes kuyasimotivate into engayicela kakhulu ikakhulu kumabandla aphikisayo ukuthi asikhuthaze ukuthi no we can win amavote baqale bami ngokukhala ukuthi no yes siyalwazi udlamelwano lwe-ZANU-PF but asizameni maybe as ama-opposition party ukuthi siba-encourage ukuthi no ukugive up ngeke kusise ndawo ukuthi sithi no i-ZANU-PF izawina sivele siyeke ngeke kusize into engasisiza sisithandekile ukuthi asambeni siyevota we are trying by all means uku-encourage abantu bayovota ngoba if uqhubeka kunje i-ZANU-PF ingawina abantu bazohlala besemazweni ngeke abantu babuyele ekhaya.
Yebo ke siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi usixhase kuhlelo.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu sisithandekile nabalaleli abanye.
Yebo ke siyabonga lapho ke that was Jason Maposa calling all the way from South Africa, who is saying that they have no hope in participating, that the outcome of the elections will be free and fair, and as a result he is not going back home to vote from South Africa Day. But he says some of his colleagues think that it's worth giving it a try to vote and changing the situation so that they can all go back home. As we know that in South Africa Day, their special permits are expiring this June, and they are expected to go back home. Yes, and we are still waiting for our listeners and they just for our guests. And our guests have just called to say that they are ready and waiting. We'll be having them soon. But before that, we have another caller. Siyakwamukela emoyeni.
Yebo njani mama?
Hayi siyaphila ngubani engikhuluma laye njalo ungaphi kwelizwe?
Ngikuphila noPhotela mina mseBotswana.
Yebo ke kunjani ke khona ngapho?
Hayi konke kuhle.
Yeah, ungasichasisela ke ngamafitshane ukuthi uthini ngokwenzakala ekhaya. Siyabona ukuthi kulungiselela ukhetho, siyabona ukuthi kwakulohlelo lokubhalisela ukuvota abantu bahamba babhalisa. Ungathini ngakho abanye ibandla eliphikisayo lithi kulodlakela amalunga labotshwa amahlayana njalo amanye achaywa ngabacatsha ukuthi ngabebandla leZANU-PF njalo lamapolisa alukhuni. Ungathini ngokwenzakala ekhaya?
Okwenzakala ekhaya kubuhlungu kakhulu mama ngoba siyazi ukuthi sikhangelelene nokhetho ubana sihambe siyovota kodwa ungaze sivote vele akunanto ezakwenzeka ngoba vele yonke into vele akulanto eyalunga khona apha vele.
Kodwa abanye phela bathi nxa lingasavotanga akusoze kulunge njalo kuyahlala kunjalo.
Kodwa vele nisizawuvota asale kodwa into khona njengoba sitshaywa nje akunanto esawuyenza yabona. Ngoba nathi nathanda uba abamabandla aphikisayo bonke ababanje phela abaningi athi ababona.
Yebo ke. Ye kodwa phela kuyaphetha ngani abantu bazakwamukela khonokho bethi hayi sivoti asoze sibuqule lutho ngoba sizachaya.
Hawu kodwa siyavota mama kodwa sawubona kophuma ntoni kodwa nami bengisibana besicela kubane ayinto lethu masambe siyovota ngenxa singalungisa enye into asikwazi.
Kodwa khona ngapho ke nje uthe ukuliphi ilizwe?
eBotswana.
Okay, kodwa kunjani khona ngapho umumo wezombusazwe njalo kuyini eleZimbabwe elingakubona kukuhle khona ngapho likusebenzise?
Hayi apha kusesekuhle ebantwini balapha kodwa kuthi thina abahlala ngaphandle akunanto enhle apha ngoba singabantu bokuza solizwe lethu.
Kodwa nxa ubona indlela abaqoqa ngayo inhlelo zabo zokhetho ungathini ngazo?
abeBotswana.
Yeah, ungathi konke ukhetho luqhubeka kuhle akuladlakela?
Hayi eBotswana kukabi nodlakela.
Hayi kuhle kodwa wena uvela ngapha ekhaya?
Ngilembembe.
Yeah, nyakuzwa ngoba ukhuluma ngesixhosa kodwa bona bathini nxa uxoxa lapho? Bathi bazavota, bathi konke uhamba kuhle, bazuza ukudla kumbe bakhonona?
abathi bazawuzama bayovota sikwazi ubana mabasithi inyani bayagqoka sikwazi.
Kuyini ke ongathanda ukuluchiyela iliphi ilizwe ongathanda ukulichiyela abeZimbabwe?
Umuntu engingayithetha kuphela ebantwini baseZimbabwe ndicela uba masambe siyovota kuphela ngenxa singalungise enye into ngoba akunanto engaguquka ngaphambi kokhetho.
Yebo ke njalo siyezwa labo uthini ngalabo abaselizweni leSouth Africa ukuthiwa incwadi zabo zokuhlala kulelo lizwe seziphela ukusebenza sokumele bephindele ekhaya.
Kona kunzima mama kodwa vele akunanto ongayenza nxa abanikazi belizwe bethetha loo nto akunanto ongayenza kufanele uphindele uye kwena ndisho uyolungisa isimo sakwenu.
Njengoba ekhaya kunzima kangaka ubona ingani kulula yini ukuthi umuntu ovela kwelinye ilizwe aqalise kutsha impilo?
Kunzima ayikhole kodwa vele sekwenzakele phela.
Kuyabe sokwenzakele kodwa kuyahlaleka yini khona ngapho kwele Botswana kumbe lonke lifisa ukuthi isimo silunge ekhaya ukwenzela ukuthi wonke umuntu abuyele?
Thina sisaqothise inhloko nje kodwa sifumana izinto eqale zilunge ekhaya kaloku.
Kodwa ungathi banengi abavela eZimbabwe ohlangana labo khona ngapho kwele Botswana?
Bakhona baningi
Kuyahlaleka kodwa akuhlalwa bebotshwa besiwe ezintolongweni lokhu lalokhu kungani kuyaphileka kwabanye?
Abanye banezincwadi nabo abanye abanancwadi kodwa hayi kona kusafani nakuqala.
Hayi kuyezwakala ke hayi sibongile ukuthi usixhasile lapha kuhlelo lethu.
Ngiyabonga mama inkosi.
Uhlale ke usitshayela ucingo ke sikuchayile lathi sixoxe njalo sihlezi silezi zihloko zendaba ezehlukeneyo. Namhlanje sikhuluma ngezombusazwe, kusasa singabe sikhuluma ngezomnotho kusiya.
Ngiyabulela mama.
Yebo ke kulungile. That was Kollegile Mlambo from Botswana. He's coming from Mbembesi in Zimbabwe. He's saying that he hopes that the situation in the country will change. We have another caller. Yebo ke siyaku welcome to the show. Yebo ke ngubani esikhuluma laye uyibizo ungaphi kwelizwe?
Mina ngiseBotswana kodwa ngiyabe eZimbabwe.
Uvela ngaphi kwendawo eZimbabwe?
ePlumtree.
Uthe uvela ngaphi?
ePlumtree.
Yebo ePlumtree. Isikhathi ke asisavumi ungasitshela ke ngamafitshane ukuthi uthini ngomumo osekhaya amabandla ezombusazwe akhonona ngokuthi abotshwa amahlayana ngesikhathi kulungiselelwa ukhetho.
Mina lapha engikhona kahle ngingakabona into engihlala ngingekho isikhathi nesiningi.
Kodwa njengomuntu weZimbabwe uthini ngalokho uzahamba yini ekhaya ukuyavota?
Ngihamba.
Wabhalisa ukuvota?
Ngingakabhalisi kodwa ngizokuthi inthikile lathi wathi bakhona ukuthi lokubhalisa first so ngangithi ngizoya.
Yebo. Hayi kuyezwakala. Hayi ke sibongile ukuxoxa lawe. Yes, that was our caller. He's saying he's going back home to vote. He's in Botswana. And we have come to the end of our show. And we would like to thank all our guests, callers, and viewers and listeners. Let's meet again tomorrow at 8 o'clock p.m. And remember, our regular radio news shows are on 7 days a week from 7 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm Sithandegile Mhlanga here in Washington.